Welcome to the Lancashire Lad podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Lancashire Lad podcast. Now, this is super exciting for me because from day one, this lady was one of my big targets to bring onto the show. She's a dear friend of mine, someone that gave me a kick up the arse earlier this year, a public speaking coach, motivational speaker, and founder and owner of the Queen Bee movement. Recent author of her new book, I Am the Queen Bee, which we'll talk about at some point in this podcast. But for now, Dani Wallace, how are you?
Oh, I'm so excited, Stu. When you said, I'm starting a podcast, will you be on it? It was an absolute no-brainer. A, because I love you, and B, because I knew we were going to have an absolute scream. So I've been so excited about today.
You've come all the way from Preston, haven't you, today? Is it still Preston?
Yeah, it is.
Because there's a new house.
Is there a new house? Yes, yeah, there is. But yeah, it's on the suburbs now. We're in the burbs.
All right,
now.
the posh part.
Well, if there's a posh part of Preston, but yeah, we're out in the country a little bit now. So yeah.
Wicked, right? So before we get into it, let's just find out your background, because I know you most as a singer-performer, and I've had the pleasure of working with you several times. So let's start at the beginning, from background. Singer, performer, and to what you do now. So take us back to where it all began.
So I grew up in Preston. I'm like a bad penny, I just end up back in Preston. But I grew up in Preston, and we grew up on the council estates, and we were really, really sort of on the breadline. My mum hates it when I talk about it because she's only just realised that we were actually poor. So I was on the radio, I was on BBC Radio a few months ago, and I was talking about my story, and I talk about my story all the time.
Yeah.
So I've built my business, and I was saying that we were poor, and because it was the BBC, my mum's listening, and she called me afterwards. She was crying. I went, "What's up, Mum?" She went, "Were we poor?" And I went, "Mum, out of all of my cousins, and there were lots of us, I got the last of the hand-me-downs. Yeah. They all had holes in the clothes by the time they got to me. I mean, I choose to have holes in my clothes now. But things were really difficult for us growing up. If I look sort of situationally, generationally, things like domestic abuse, alcoholism were inherent is our family. If I look back, for not just my mum and dad, but aunties, uncles, nanas, granddads, all the way back, cousins growing up. Those were the sorts of families that we just grew up in. It's what we knew, and that really went on to inform a lot of what I did, as it does for many of us. It informed a lot of what I did when I got a little bit older. So by the time I was 16, our house had been like a revolving door of cousins coming to live with us, of drama, of things blowing off, and I was like, I'm out. So essentially I ran off with a circus. Well, not really the circus, but I did.
The circus.
Not quite. I didn't look that good in a leotard. But
what about in a cannon?
Right. So I ended up singing abroad. I got contracts all over the world. Really lucky that I got to travel at such a young age. I didn't think about my age. But I was so lucky that I got to travel around the world, in a much similar way to yourself when you were in your repping days.
Yeah.
And I did that, part of animation teams, cruise ships, all of that. I was a blue coat at Pontins, my claim to fame for those years in my life. But I was always seeking validation from outside myself. And that validation for me either came through drink or it came through relationships. I was a serial monogamist, and it didn't really matter who I was in a relationship with, as long as they filled essentially a husband-shaped hole, even if that person wasn't particularly ready.
Yeah. I get the picture.
You can imagine I'm a bit of a whirlwind. So God bless my.
That's what we love you for, though.
I've learned how to hone that skill since.
Yeah.
But people like us from where we came from didn't go on to become successful singers. The only way that you would become successful in that particular field is if it landed in your lap, if you got lucky, if you were on a reality TV show, or that was the only time people would take you seriously.
Yeah.
So I had this kind of whisper in my ear from my family, from people, that were around me. It wasn't in parentheses, a proper job. So I came back to the UK. My grandma was knocking on a bit, and I thought, I was really close to her. I thought, I'll stay around. She's in her final months, probably.
Yeah.
Got a job in Preston, started working in contact centres. So quite quickly, they talent managed me through, because it was like the growth of the contact centre. Have you ever worked in a contact centre?
I haven't, no, but I know how they work.
Right. So they were like back in 2006, 2007, they were like the factories of today. Like just floors and floors and floors of people, customer services, sales, all that sort of stuff. So I was really lucky that I got a dead good job working with Carphone Warehouse, and they talent managed me very quickly through into learning development. So I started teaching people. So it was as close as I could get to being on stage, I think, is what it was. Yeah. So I ended up doing learning development. I was training, doing sales training, leadership development, all of this. It was a really good job, but totally unfulfilling. And I had this dead good job up here, and my life were in tatters underneath.
like the sea when it's stormy, and then underneath it's not, is it?
Right, right. So there was this great job, and to the outside world, things were going brilliant. But because, I know we've had many conversations about this, about success being safe.
Yeah.
It, somehow underneath it all, I was just sabotaging everything, making really poor decisions about, my partners, making poor decisions about money, making poor decisions about pretty much everything. I'd met this guy, and bless him, I railroaded him.
Fast-tracked him.
Bless him. I was just promoting him dead quick. But we had a baby, we bought a house, we sent out the invites to our wedding, and then bought and paid for the wedding. And then 2 weeks later, after we sent the invites out, I just woke up, he went, Dani, I don't want this.
Right.
And although now, there's no forgiveness involved. I've nothing to forgive him for, because he did exactly what he should have done, because we weren't really meant to be together.
Yeah.
But it did leave me at the time feeling really, really vulnerable, completely invalidated. If I look at the way that women, I've not shut up yet, I'm quite aware.
No, I'm enjoying it. The whirlwind has appeared.
I know I'm here now. I'm just going to say it all. I'm hoping you'll edit loads of it out. The way that women were treated as we were growing up were, you were validated by the relationship that you were in.
Yeah.
Or you were validated just by being in a relationship. So then to have that 2.4 kid situation, or the potential for that taken away from me, that left me in a bit of disarray. I didn't know what to do with myself. I was feeling really vulnerable. And often what happens is that you go to the guy that's most like your father. So very quickly I got into another relationship. This guy was a narcissist, and very quickly that relationship turned quite sour. So I became a victim, or I experienced, because I don't like talking about myself as a victim.
Yeah.
I started to experience an abusive relationship, and that really turned quite violent when I got pregnant with my second daughter, Daisy. So I got out of that.
How abusive did that get?
It got violent.
Physical?
Yeah, it got physical. So at the start, it was... So the way that these relationships often work is the perpetrator, although they don't realise they are a perpetrator, tethers himself, essentially like a parasite, to somebody who's going to be an anchor for them. So for him, he sought his validation from women, lots and lots and lots of women. So there was me, who was like on my knees, and he was a relatively good-looking guy, and there's this thing that happens often with these relationships where there's this like a symptom, I guess, called love bombing. So right at the beginning, he sort of swept into my life, and he did everything for me.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, I am freshly out of having the rug pulled out from underneath me.
You're vulnerable, weren't you?
Yeah, so vulnerable. Like, with my heart, with everything around me, with money, all of this. And this guy just swept in. He came and decorated my house for me. He got up in the night with Poppy. Like, he was doing all of the things, completely ingratiated myself, thinking, oh God, this guy really does love me.
Yeah.
And then very quickly found out he was having a series of affairs, and by that time we were just embroiled, and it's really difficult to get out when you're in there.
A sense of entrapment, isn't there?
Yeah, it really is. And like, my friends around me started to just sort of close the doors, because they were infuriated. They could see what was happening, and I was just forgiving him and forgiving him and forgiving him. And then eventually we needed sort of court intervention, and we got sort of untangled by the courts. But that left me in a position where we had nothing. So I was in this job, but it was everything I could do to keep my kids in nursery. So paid all my money into nursery fees and wasn't able to afford anything else, and we ended up homeless. So
yeah,
it went from that, it was all really, really great, to absolutely nothing, and we're sofa surfing. I've got 2 kids under 2.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So 2 kids, what happens next?
So we sofa surfed, essentially. I was very, very lucky that, my mum, my sister, and some friends really had our back. For that period of time, I was still working out of London a little bit with work. And one night I was tucking my kids into bed and I was about to go to London. And it was like a scene out of a movie. It was utterly, like, if I think about it, I couldn't have written it any better. And I've written about it since in my book, but it couldn't have written any better. It felt terrible at the time.
Yeah.
But it was like raining outside, and I was about to drive down the motorway to go, to go back to London again for a couple of days while somebody else was looking after my kids. And I took my kids into bed, and I didn't know, Stu, if I were kissing them goodbye or goodnight. I didn't know if I was going to drive into the sunset or a lamppost, one or the other. I didn't really want to come back because I just felt such a burden, like I couldn't make a good decision to save my life.
So it was that a confidence issue?
I don't think it
was. It confident with a list of bad decisions that ended up second guessing your decisions all the time or not? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was just more like this realisation that every single thing that I decided had brought me to this point, and this point wasn't a good point.
Yeah.
I was coming up for 30, I thought I should have had things made by now. If I looked at my peer group, people at work, they were all set up, they had beautiful houses, they had good jobs, and I like had a gate into that world, but it was like it wasn't for me. It was like I just kept pushing it away and kept destroying everything. So anyway, I sit in the car, it's raining outside, there's like thunder and everything, I'm crying.
What song's playing in the background?
Honestly, it's like...
Raining on prom night or something like that.
Yeah, it's something terrible. And I'm like, oh, like this, crying, thinking, this is it. I don't know what to do. And I guess I don't think I wanted to die, but I didn't know how to carry on living. I didn't know what to do with myself. And it was in that moment that I realised that either life was going to continue happening to me, and I think people find this all the time, that once they're on that cycle of things happening to them, they think that that's the way that it is, that just bad things happen to me all the time. It's just I just keep rolling with it. It's like I was like Neo out of Matrix, just dodging bullets all the time. And then I realised either life was going to continue happening to me, or I better start happening to life. I better start taking some responsibility for the things that I was doing. I better start taking responsibility for how I was feeling, for what I was doing with the kids, for where we were living. Because I was living in shame. I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know.
I think that's massive. Living in shame.
Yeah.
A lot more people live that way than they let on.
100%. And that's why I started the I Am the Queen Bee movement. And so from that point, shameless plug, we're not even at the book yet, but yeah, I decided in that moment that I needed to, instead of sort of losing my dignity, which is what I felt like I'd done, I'm going to give my dignity away freely and gladly off my own accord, ask for help, start doing the things that I really needed to do, take that responsibility back. And I always promised myself in that moment that if I ever made something of myself, then I would do something, anything, to help prevent other people from feeling that way too. And I don't just mean from like a domestic abuse point of view, but I just mean an adversity point of view. Sometimes we wear our victimhood like badges.
Yeah.
We go around going, this is just me, this is just the way that I am, and it's not.
I get it 100%, because what I've seen from you is that you worked on yourself to a point where you were like, you know what, I'm okay now.
Yeah.
But you didn't leave it there.
No.
It was like, I can help others.
Yeah.
And which many of you won't know this, but this podcast wouldn't be active if it wasn't for this lady. And the reason being is in December 2020, Dani reached out to me. So tell the viewers what you reached out for, what the reason was, and what you said.
Well, I reached out to you far before you started thinking about this. You actually helped me right at the very beginning. I feel like things have kind of come full circle, and I love it when it's beautiful and things like that.
Yeah.
Like, if I go back to, maybe, I think like 2011, 2012, something like that, I remember wanting to forge my way singing. I'd had enough of corporate. I was just done with it all, and I wanted to sing. And we had a few mutual friends who were on the circuit, and what you often find in the gig community is that once, like, it's hard to get in. And it's
hard to open the door to certain areas, isn't it? It is.
I mean, what I love about Morecambe particularly is it's got a really vibrant music scene. Yeah. And it's got a really lovely, supportive, amazing, like, community of musicians. And I'd heard of you, and I'd reached out to you, and I'd gone, I'm a singer, I'm just starting out, I'm good. I know you're established in the area. Can you hook us up? And you were like,
I'll see what I can do, kid.
But what kicked off then was like It was like we became siblings. Like, we
Yeah.
always talk about like my brother in show. And
No, it was. I mean, I've worked, as you have, with loads of singers. So I've shared the stage at gigs with so many different people. And a lot of the time in the music industry, you work with people that compete with you on a night rather than working with you.
Right.
And I remember when we worked together for the first time, there was no sense of rivalry. It was more of a case of, what do you sing? I sing. And it was like a teamwork that, and our natures on stage went so well together. And I remember saying we need to do this more. And even to this day, you're still easily one of the favourite people I like working with when we have the privilege of being on stage. I hope we get to do that again.
We've got to do that again. We've got to make time.
When we can get some space in your busy agenda.
I'm a busy bee now, mate.
I mean, wait to hear this. I messaged you the other week. And I got, can you message my personal
My
looked after my
assistant.
diary? I'm like, it's me. But yeah, even I've got to go to the queue now, which is fine. It's great to see you doing it.
It's a boundary setting thing though. Like now, I mean, I know we'll get there like with regards to the story, but when you build a business or it is what I've done. I've built a business that becomes as big as what it has. There are no free slots because the only free slots anymore have to go to my family because things are they're insanely busy. So when it comes to like diary management now, it's not just like, oh, I'll just pick up, because it used to be when I was gigging, you could say, Dani, are you free on 26th of June? I'll go, yeah, I'm free on 26th of June. I'll see you then, mate. Whereas now, I don't know because it's not managed. So I'm like a little wind-up doll now, and my team just point me where I need to go and I take off.
Them two flat feet that go like that, yeah.
That's it, that's me now. But yeah, so then I didn't have regular gigs, I didn't have a community, I didn't know other singers, and you really took me under your wing at that particular point in time, and then I managed to create a really good, solid singing business. You know, I was never out of work, I was never without a gig.
That's also because you're very good though, you do realise that, don't you? You know, it's not like it wasn't a fluke.
It was magically.
You know, everywhere you went, you left an impression, and as a singer and performer, that's so important. And you know, and like you said, Morecambe and Lancaster and the Northwest is such a special area to sing in, because people are so much more receptacle to people that want to entertain. But yeah, you reached out to me, and like I said, you know, I think the words you said to me were, Stuart, you've been playing big in a small pond for a long time. Yeah. And what we mean by small pond is we're not degrading Morecambe, we're just saying a small area. And your words were, you could be playing far bigger in a bigger pond. Yeah. And those words, because I've always been, contrary to what people say, I've always been very, I'm trying to find the right way of saying it. I've always I find it more easier to get disses than I do compliments, and I can handle being slated better than when. So when you reached out to me and said that, it was like someone punching me in the stomach, and I was trying to.
It's a very loving punch.
Yes, it was, but it just made me want to do something different to reach out to a further audience, and for some reason, the podcast just went. I'm here. I'm here. And everything that came, the Lancashire lad name came like that. The ideas came like that. The type of guests I wanted came like that. And it was all because of what you said with using my skill set. So you know, your words when you reached out and you said those words, they hit home. And I knew I needed to do something, but I wasn't sure what.
The thing is, right, Stu, for the years that we've known each other the best part of 10 years now. Bloody hell.
It's our anniversary.
I know.
What do you get for 10 years?
Candles.
What do you get for 10 years?
I don't know.
It's something shit like cotton in it or something like that.
I know, it's going to be rubbish. But you were kind of this like self-styled Mr. Morecambe situation, and you know, you'd done some phenomenal things and garnered phenomenal results, but it was all very sort of local centered. And I've been moving around in the online world now for 5 or 6 years. I could see what other people are doing out there, that I knew if you allowed you to enter that space, that what you have to give is a skill that is necessary right now, is needed right now.
Yeah.
Your level of optimism, your cheekiness, your all of those things that are great about you, the world needs it. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I kind of burst onto the online space and really started to take off, is because I wasn't just another corporate in a suit going, here's how you do business. And you're like, oh God, it's boring.
I thought doing voiceover work.
I get paid loads.
Toy Story 4, 5, whatever, you know. Think about that robot you said before. That's your character.
I wouldn't do the rest of the podcast like this. But you have this set of skills that once you were able to see and pop your head above the parapet of just Morecambe, that the potential for you and everything that you can create becomes exponential. Like that and that's what gets me excited about the stuff that I do with the I'm the Queen Bee movement. So for me, I started, I was watching the Bee movie with my kids, and we'd come through the other side, and I was working, and we knew each other by then, and I'd met Wallace, and we'd had Ivy, who's me.
Wallace is Dani's husband.
He's not called Wallace, by the way. His name's Mark, but he just doesn't. I've always called him by his surname.
Just Wallace.
We were together 2 years before my kids realised that he actually had a first name. He wasn't just called Wallace. But we were watching the Bee movie, and there's this quote in the Bee movie, right? And it goes, aerodynamically, bees shouldn't be able to fly. Their fat little bodies should not be able to be lifted off the ground by their little wings. I'm paraphrasing, this is not the exact words. Bees, however, don't care what humans think is impossible. Bees fly anyway. Stuart clutched my pearls. I was like, yes, this is it. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to share with people, that you get to choose to fly anyway, whatever you've overcome. You've had your own adversities, mate, which, you know, documented or not, you've had your own things that you've fought through and overcome, and I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud to be your friend. But you, like, epitomise that for me, is that choosing to fly anyway, that it doesn't matter where you've come from, it doesn't matter what you've done, it doesn't matter where all of these things, that you get to choose to create incredible things. You get to choose to create the life that you want to live. And that's what I ended up doing, is create this movement online, this network of phenomenal people. In my network now, I have to pinch myself, Stu, because I've got like millionaires, Olympians, pop stars, journalists, hairdressers, startups,
podcasters,
people that are just starting out, but they're all in my community. And the whole idea is, there's this like strapline we use in the network. We show up, wise up, and rise up. We've got a If we've got a goal, if there's something that you want to achieve, you've got to do two things. You've got to show the F up for it, and if there are gaps in your learning, you've got to learn about them and allow yourself to do the learning. That's exactly what I've seen you do. So you have no problem showing up. You've been showing up for the people of Morecambe for years and years and years. What you needed to learn was how to podcast. What you needed to learn was how do you utilize the analytics of YouTube, or how do you monetize it. So you're in that learning space right now that is only going to have you rise up. And I was the same. I was putting my makeup on in the car on a live every single time I did a gig, sharing things on personal and business development. I had no problem showing up. I didn't know how to monetize it. I didn't know how to build a business out of that. So I just then decided, okay, if I've got no problem showing up, and rising up for me was getting out of the council estate that I was living on. Because we were having our windows put through and all sorts, tyres slashed. Like this. No,
I get the picture.
It were a mess, really. And this is only up until, well, I moved on March this year. We're in 2021 now, so I've only just moved out of there. So everything is about getting us and the kids safe. But I started out, no problem showing up. Just going
I remember watching a lot, because I remember arriving at gigs. Obviously, when we gig, we gig at the same time, 9 o'clock, you know. And I remember sitting in the car before my gig, and I'm having a fag.
Watching me like,
and you're like,
I remember you commenting on one of my lives. I have no idea why I'm watching you put your makeup on. Danny,
I was like, what's going on? Oh, shit, I was supposed to be on stage 5 minutes ago. So yeah, you've got a skill of being very, I don't know, it's like if you get your hook in someone, you're like, and then the person's like, I'm not even fighting this. So it's like, I like it.
So what I try to do is to use that skill that I have for good, because that would be really dangerous if I used that in a different way. But yeah, so like seeing you doing all the wising up that you've done with your ability to show up I'm so excited to be in with you having this conversation now at this podcast. And where is it going to be in 12 months' time? Like, I can't wait
Yeah,
to see.
well, hopefully a lot. I mean, one thing I wanted to ask you is, when you said the nice things to me then,
Yeah.
I sort of, you know...
Did it make you feel funny?
Yeah, right, and this is what I want to ask you.
Go on.
Why is it when... Because a lot of people perceive people, like, for example, me, a lot of people think I'm an arrogant bastard and that I'm up myself and things like that. And I can see why certain people see it. But what they don't see is when people compliment someone, like, for example, when you compliment me then, make me feel uneasy that. Yeah. So why do you think people, when they get a bit of praise or they get a bit... Why do you think that does make someone go, oh, I don't know how to handle this?
Do you want me to tell you why you felt like that, or do you want me to tell you why people feel like that?
Up to you.
It's very similar.
You tell me.
So I think you felt like that because you have styled yourself so far in your space in like this banter space. I can take a joke. That kind of banter type space. Then for the most part, so far, a lot of the people around you are like, oh, we'll give the banter to... I'm not a fan of banter in the grand scheme of things. I think it's quite damaging. I think, you know, throwing abuse at people for the sake of banter isn't funny anymore. I just don't find it funny. Yeah. And it's not because I can't find things funny. I mean, I'm laughing all the time. We've laughed a lot already. But you positioned yourself in a self-deprecating way so people treat you accordingly. So when people start to be nice to you, you're like, well, I don't know how to deal with that because actually what you've trained people to do so far, and that's not the case much anymore. But you train people, and we do this all the time, we train people how to treat us. So then when someone treats you differently or how you really should be treated, you suddenly go, I don't really know what to do with this. Accepting compliments is a really funny thing. It's especially like we're in the UK, we stiff upper lip and all of that, but we are not encouraged to celebrate ourselves. We're not encouraged to allow ourselves to take up space. Yeah. I mean, I feel particularly as a woman, because as soon as I tend to be the fat funny one, because that's where I'd positioned myself. But actually, I'm really intelligent. I know a lot of things about a lot of things, and I share that. And that's one of the reasons why my audience engage with me the way that they do. But for a long time, I would be self-deprecating because I'm the fat funny one. Yeah. Whereas actually, there's so many more layers to me that every day now I celebrate. And the more that you celebrate, the people then start to see that in you. Yeah,
behaviour breeds behaviour, if you will. Yeah.
And it's just like this boundary thing with I'm just doing this, like picking up the phone, like the diary thing. Yeah. So in the past, my diary was an open book and people could just message me all the time. Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And I'd just say yes. I was everybody's yes woman. So when I started saying no, that felt weird. But it was eating out of my time. I wasn't spending any time with the kids.
Yeah. No, I see the genius behind the idea. Well, it's not an idea, is it? I see the reason why it's had to go that way. Yeah. And obviously what it's done is deliver a nice balance of work time and family time. Yeah. So that's great to hear, and you know it's great to see the insight of how your brain works, and literally
it's a messy place.
Yeah, but I think that's what we all should be striving to have that clarity about our own lives, you know, because like what you just said then about certain things, the amount of times I walk into a pub to sing and what time are you on? Half an hour, I'll drink up then. I think things like that, Yeah. So I get, I do get what you're saying, but it's hard not to feel like you have to have a stiff lip sometimes, Which brings us nicely on to, this should obviously take me down another avenue when I read this tonight, because here we have Dani's brand new book, I Am the Queen Bee.
It's so weird you holding my book. And
it feels weird. I feel like it's the Bible.
Fat lady Jesus.
So, I mean, the success of this book in such a short period of time. Yeah, it's been insane. So, I tell you what, let's set you a challenge. Right. In 5 minutes, tell me what's in this book, why it's going to change your life, and how it's performing.
You've got a picture book. Right, I can tell you in less than 5 minutes. So, it's called I Am the Queen Bee, How I Overcame Self-Sabotage to Fly Anyway and How You Can Too. So, the idea behind it is, it's a mixture of autobiography plus some really great personal and self-development tools that you can use to get out of your own way, because that's what we do a lot. So it's for people who, and just because it says I'm the Queen Bee on the front does not mean that it negates any other member of the world reading it. So you don't just have to be a woman to read this book. Like, this is for men, this is for trans people, this is for non-binary people, any marginalised communities. This book is about the things that we can do for ourselves to get out of our own way. It's been insane, I'll be honest with you. Like, I wrote the book in 2 weeks last August.
Did it just flow?
I already had an idea of what I wanted to put out into the world, and I'd already written a smaller book earlier on in the year called Closed Mouths Don't Get Fed. And that's about speaking, like a little book of speaking, because my job now is a public speaking coach. So my job now is to help people speak about their businesses so that they can reach more people and make more money.
Yeah.
Is so that if they've got a mission, that they can share that mission and get more people involved, because that's what I'm doing. And all those years in corporate and years on stage has allowed me to know all the things that you need to know about speaking. But this was a real, like a combination of a study of everything that I've done in order to create. So I have a multiple six-figure business now. I've just managed to buy the house of my dreams. And what I wanted to do is that very thing I was telling you about before, Stu, where as soon as I was in a position of safety, security, stability, success, I wanted to be able to put my hand out behind me and say, like,
tag along.
Yeah, like, come with me.
Come with me, yeah. I've got you.
Yeah, it sounds, you know, you were saying about compliment giving before. The statement, I am the Queen Bee, I am aware is a ridiculous, audacious statement to make. Right?
I like it though. I like it.
Walking into places, always the Queen Bee. Like, I get it, people like refer to me, they go, hey Queen. But it's much less about...
They're curtsying, yeah.
Yeah. Or they're buying me drinks like I'm here for it.
Yeah,
I get sent gifts all the time, but... It's absolutely nothing to do with me, actually, that statement. Me saying I am the Queen Bee, it's a reclamation statement that I want to gift to other people. Like, I was really naffed off that the Queen was born the Queen. I was furious. Like I love Liz, but the whole thought that people are born into abundance or wealth or whatever really irked me because I wasn't. And then I realised that actually I needed to be more tenacious. Those things were my birthright, but I needed to be more tenacious about finding it. So I am the Queen Bee. It's like you're the King Bee or the Royal Bee or however you identify, you know, you're the Sovereign Bee, whatever it is. But it's that reclamation statement of wealth and happiness and success and love and all them good things that we deserve. So the book, we released it in October last year. It flew all the way up. Like, there's 8.5 million books on Amazon and we got into the top 300.
That is absolutely, I mean... What? How does
it feels weird. I'd
love to be smart enough to do the math on that. But in the top 300 out of 6.5...
No, 8.5 million
8.5 million.
8.5 million books, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's lots and lots of different categories. So this is a self-published book. I work with an incredible company called Authors & Co. To create the book and get it into like a saleable space. You made me laugh. We were talking before the show. I was like, so this ghostwriting thing. I was like, I'm not ghostwriting.
Yeah. Well,
I've written it.
I just assumed. I thought, I was like, she can't do that as well.
I can't parallel park. There are limits to my skills.
Right. Well, it's not a bad price to pay for being able to write a bestseller, if you will.
Right. So it flew to the top of the charts, like across loads of different categories, like biographies or home-based businesses, personalities, all of these. And we were kicking like the owner of Nike out and Michelle Obama out. Like, we were just like...
Just do it. Just do one.
Honestly, it was crazy. And there's just been such success over the back of it. And not just having the book in and of itself. The people that message me every day, like my inbox is full. I have to have somebody manage my inbox because of the amount of messages that I get saying, oh, you know, your book's changed my life. And I'm just sat there thinking...
It's pretty powerful stuff,
isn't it?
I'm
holding on, like, I'm like, flipping heck.
Do you feel like you deserve all this, though?
That's a funny question, Stu.
I thought you'd have gone damn right then.
I'd like to say, yeah, but I don't feel entitled to anything. So, you know, we're saying this is his reclamation statement. Actually, the work that I've been doing on myself has been not seeking validation externally. So I was saying to you before, as a singer, you seek validation from your audience, you seek validation from your bookers, you seek validation from your peer group, your relationships, your family.
Yeah.
And the big piece of work that I've had to do is validating myself. I did this really wicked exercise. A lot of the work that I've been doing has been on self-awareness, understanding me, so that I can do better and be better, right? So one of the things that one of this exercise was, we did this meditation. For anybody that's like, not woo, like, I did a meditation. And in this meditation, this wonderful woman was like guiding you through it. And she was like, take you down to this relaxed space. And imagine you walk through this door, and through this door is future you. And future you has all of the things that you want in life, right? So you've got a beautiful house, you go on these holidays, your kids are really happy, your husband's made up, everyone's really happy, beautiful space, and she's got in this box a present, and she hands this present to you. And this future you's crying her eyes out. She's just so full of gratitude for you, and she's just so desperately in love with you, and she thinks you're amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're there like thinking, all right, what? And you're giving me a present, okay. And in that box is everything you have given future you, everything that you've done. And that is such a gift. And then I realised just how much I love past me. So if I look at that girl that was sat in the car crying, not knowing if she was going to ride off into the sunset or a lamppost, and I think, flipping heck, look at what you've achieved, look at how you're helping people, that I don't need the validation anymore.
Yeah.
I love myself so much.
You know where you're at.
Yeah.
And you know where you're at, and you're where you should be.
Yeah, so I don't feel entitled to it. It feels right. It feels like the work that I do now is necessary, because it must be, because so many people say to me, God, Dani, you know, when I've read these things, I've gone on to go and change my life. I just have to pinch myself that I get to be a catalyst for that, I think, as opposed to, you know, is that for me? I don't know if it's for me, but if it's my purpose, if it's my calling, and it's, you know, I used to like singing Build Me a Buttercup on a Saturday night down at the Palatine, don't get me wrong. But if I look at the bigger purpose of where I get to sit now, and that book is a real testament to that, I guess. Yeah,
no, fantastic. So as you said, you know, the future you, which is now, compared to the girl sat in the chair, where's the future you from this point in down the line?
So the things that I'm doing now are all building up to that future you point. And that future you point for me is, so we've created safety, stability, security for my family. That was the number one thing. You know, it's been beautiful. I've been able to retire my mum from her NHS job. She now works with us, for us. Essentially, she's retired.
Yeah.
She's helping me with the kids, but it's been nice to be able to retire my mum. It's nice to be able to work with my husband. But now the next bit is that we've created, I've created. It's weird. I can't talk in the we, because a lot of it is me. And now I've got quite a big team that work around me, but we've created the Fly Anyway Foundation. So the Fly Anyway Foundation helps survivors of domestic abuse connect with business, goods and services.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And for them to build business and freedom. So that's the next big thing for me.
Wow. So this has been awesome, and the thing is, we could go so long.
I feel like, we should have had a pint. We should have sat here. Sat here with a drink. We've not been able to. I mean, there's been the whole of lockdown, and we've not been able to catch up. With each other for
absolutely
ages.
not. And like I said, I'd love to go on and on and on, and we could go on and on, but we'll have to sort of aim it towards the exit,
the finish line.
So for anyone who will watch this and think, God, that really resonates with me, what's the best advice you could offer anyone watching this wanting to change, but maybe not having the courage, or maybe not being able, maybe seeing the mountains maybe too high, and you know, what's the advice?
I've got two, but I'll make it dead quick.
Okay.
So the first is get really self-aware. Often what we do with all of the things in our lives is that we look out around us and we hold a mirror up to everybody. Actually, when you start to turn the mirror on yourself and think about, how can I be responsible here? How are my reactions going to dictate my outcomes? Because they do in every single situation. Regardless of whatever curveball you're thrown, your reactions will dictate your outcomes every single time, regardless of what you're thrown. So understanding yourself and how you react in different situations, and start to really get a grip with that, will start to help you dictate your outcomes, take more control over the things that happen and your outcomes. The second is that if you're stood at the bottom of what feels like a mountain, you can only put one foot in front of each other, so you can't skip the steps. So you've got as long as you know, if you set a sat nav and you've got point A and point B, set your sat nav and understand that your job then is only to put one foot in front of the other. So imagine you driving through the fog, right? You know this, like we drive late at night.
Yeah.
Part of, like, how many times have you been in inclement weather? It's been snowing or it's been foggy and you can't see in front of you, but you've set your sat nav home. So you know you're going home. You've had a start point, your sat nav's figured it out, so know where you're starting, know where you're finishing, and you know your sat nav is going to take you through that fog 2 meters at a time, 2 yards at a time.
But you're moving.
Allow it, so even if you've got these plans or any kind of change that you want, you might just want a better relationship with your kids or something like that, I don't know. But understand that when you wake up in the morning, if you go to bed and you've only taken half a step, you are still further up that mountain you were, and don't beat yourself up for not ticking off all your to-do list in one day. Don't shaft yourself with a should stick. Don't be like, these are all the things that I should have done. Actually celebrate before you go to bed every night. What did I do?
Yeah.
Did I pick up the phone and speak to that person? Did I write the form out and send it off in the post? They don't have to be massive things. Incremental steps. You'll get to the top of your mountain. It's a mathematical...
lots of little goals make the big goal.
100% pens make pounds and all that sort of stuff.
No, that's great advice, and I'm sure everyone that watches this will, you've got something about you that's intriguing. So before we get onto the questions, before we get onto my 10 question shootout, if people want to follow you, what do they do?
Oh, at the Queen Bee Dani. So we're doing this Operation Swipe Up at the minute on Instagram. So I have a show every day on Facebook at 9:30 at the Queen Bee Dani page on Facebook. We're at interviews called the Show Up Rise Up Show. And so I've got some phenomenal guests, and you're coming on soon.
Well, you need to bring it back down to earth, don't you?
So you're coming on soon, and what I would love to do is on Instagram be able to have the swipe up function so that I can share. So say, for example, when you come on the show, I can say, hey, come and check out Stuart's podcast. So you go and follow me on Instagram at the Queen Bee Dani. That would be epic.
Awesome. Right, Dani, on the spot, quick fire questions.
Let's go.
Something tells me this is your comfort zone.
I'm so excited.
What is your favourite word?
Discombobulated.
No idea what that means, but...
It means feeling like your head's separated from your body.
Oh, right, fantastic.
Often on a Sunday morning after a Saturday night out.
Someone will be at home going, how do you spell that? What is your least favourite word?
Oh, no.
What turns you on?
Kindness.
What turns you off?
Unkindness.
Hand in hand, isn't it? What sound do you love?
Oh, I can't do it. I've got nails on. Do it.
Hey, I found another talent. I wonder if there's any extra work for that. What sound do you hate?
Oh, Wallace snoring.
Is it like...
Mate, it goes through... There are different, things that live within him, I think. They come out at different times in the night. So we have the walrus, the whale.
All
sometimes
right.
we have the cow. And it kind of goes through this whole range of animals.
Poor Wallace.
Not poor Wallace, poor Dani. It's like he's laughing at me. Oh, I'm having such a lovely sleep.
Yeah.
And I'm there, not just listening to him. Yeah, Wallace snoring.
What is your favourite curse word?
Knobhead.
Oh, brilliant. That's not
underused.
been mentioned so far. Knobhead. Yeah, knobhead. Yeah. Knobhead. I like it. And it's not that harsh either, is it?
No, it's dead gentle.
It can be meant with a term of endearment.
Yeah,
I love you, knobhead. What profession other than yours would you like to attempt?
Oh, flipping heck. That's a good one. Because I'm doing everything that I love.
Yeah. Podcasting?
I'm not, because I can't do that in my show. That's a really hard one. I would probably... A telly presenter. I want to be on the telly.
This morning, me and you.
Yeah,
we could take over Phil and Holly.
Phil and Holly.
We could do it.
Yeah, I'm not quite
ITV, if you're watching this, then feel free to reach out. What profession would you not like to participate in?
I couldn't do any kind of nursing or care work, and I really think it's a calling, and I think that our NHS workers and our care workers for the past 12 months have just absolutely been incredible. My dad's in a care home,
right.
So to see, people put themselves on the front line like that, I couldn't do it.
Fair enough. And if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
You did good, girl.
Yeah, I like it.
That'll
Listen,
do, Dan.
Dani, and I don't have any problem in saying this, my dear friend, thank you so much for travelling down from Preston to Morecambe to do this with me. This was one that I wanted to really do, and this is going to be the first of a few, I hope. I hope we can come back and chat, because there's so much more to touch on, especially with what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Remember, Dani's book is available to buy right now. Do what she asked. Follow her on Facebook, Instagram, because once you're in there, you can't get out.
Come on in.
But it's nice to be in there, and yeah, it's cool. So I wish you all the best, and I don't need to wish you all the best, because the best is going to happen, and it already is.
And the same for you, mate. Thank you for having me. It's nice to have this conversation. It's nice to catch up, and I can't wait to see all the incredible things that you're going to create.
Well, let's hope it's all coming. And,
it's a love fest.
Yes, it is, and I feel the energy, and I feel you, and it's great.
I've got a present for you.
Oh.
I've got a Chufty badge.
Oh, Oh.
So we sell these on the I Am the Queen Bee website, and money goes through every purchase. It's like a Blue Peter badge, but for the IATQB movement. And it's a Chufty badge for people who are incredible, and you are an incredible person. And all proceeds go to the Flying Away Foundation.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been one of my favourite episodes of the Lancashire Lad podcast. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to share. And of course, if you want to help me with my journey, subscribe to the channel, because without subscribers, I can't grow, and I want to. Dani, thank you so much. We'll see you again.